We've all looked up at the stars and wondered, is anybody else out there? We've all imagined that incredible moment of first contact. But what if that moment is something that can't ever actually happen? Let's dig in.
I mean, come on, who hasn't? The idea of giant starships, new worlds, maybe a laser battle or two, it's been the lifeblood of science fiction forever. It almost feels like an inevitable part of humanity's future, right? But what if? It's not. And there it is. That's the bold, central claim from our source material today. It argues that this entire sci-fi dream we all have is just that, a dream, a complete and utter impossibility. So how can anyone be so sure? Let's break down the logic. Okay, so first things first. The source argues we need to get really, really clear about what we mean when we say alien. It separates the idea into two totally distinct possibilities, because confusing them is exactly where our sci-fi dreams lead us astray. So on one hand, you've got the idea of an alien civilization. Think detecting some strange radio signal or finding a hyper-advanced machine probe. But on the other hand, you have an organic ET, a living, breathing creature. And our source says that while encountering signs of a civilization is one thing, meeting a biological alien, well, that's where we cross the line into pure fantasy.
So this brings up the most obvious question, right? What about all the sightings, the mysterious lights, the stories, the UFOs? If we've never been visited, what is all that stuff about? Well, here's the thing. Despite thousands and thousands of stories and supposed encounters, not a single one has ever held up to real, rigorous scientific investigation. The hard evidence, when you actually go looking for it, just isn't there. So why do these stories keep popping up? Well, science points to a few usual suspects. Simple optical illusions, people misidentifying totally normal things like weather balloons or drones, and, the fascinating ways our own brains can play tricks on us, affecting our memory or just distorting it over time. But you could argue, sure, that explains fuzzy photos from the 70s, but what about now? Well, the argument is that in the 21st century, trying to hide on planet Earth has become basically impossible. Just think about it for a second. We have billions of high-definition cameras in our pockets. We've got a web of security cams, dash cams, and doorbell cameras blanketing our cities. We have global satellite coverage and military radar constantly sweeping the skies. If something was really here, we wouldn't need one shaky eyewitness video. We'd have an absolute avalanche of undeniable, high-quality data. And we actually have that data. The US government runs an entire office dedicated to this, called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. They look at all the official reports from pilots and military folks. So what did they find? Zero. A big, fat zero. Their most recent report officially confirms 0 cases of alien or any kind of non-human technology. Not one. And if we look at the breakdown, it's pretty telling. Out of nearly 800 recent cases they investigated, the vast majority were identified as just mundane objects, balloons, drones, sometimes even birds. Another chunk was just sensor glitches. And the category for confirmed alien technology, it's sitting right there at 0. Okay, so there's no evidence they're here, but this raises an even bigger question. Why wouldn't they come? I mean, if they can cross the insane distances of space, why wouldn't they pay a visit to a planet that's just teeming with life? The logic is actually surprisingly simple. There's just no compelling reason to. Looking for resources? Any civilization capable of interstellar travel could mine asteroids and gas giants for way more raw materials than our little planet could ever offer. What about information? They wouldn't even need to land. A quick flyby of our solar system would give them every piece of data they could ever want about us. We're just not that special of a destination. And this brings us to a really mind-bending idea. We need to completely reboot our image of what an alien visitor would even be, because our pop culture version is almost certainly dead wrong. See, we imagine a biological creature inside a ship, but any civilization that advanced would have created a superintelligence, and that superintelligence, that machine, is the ship. Why would it bring along inefficient, fragile biological luggage that needs life support and just takes up space? It wouldn't. The visitor wouldn't be in the ship. The visitor would be the ship. And now for the final and maybe the biggest reason we're likely alone. It's not about space, it's about time. The vast, almost incomprehensible scale of cosmic time. Think about it like this. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Our entire technological civilization has existed for, maybe 200 of those years? That is a cosmic blink of an eye. The odds of another intelligent species existing near us in this exact same tiny sliver of time are statistically almost zero. We're like two ships passing in the cosmic night, separated by eons. So when you put all these pieces together, the lack of evidence, the lack of motive, the true nature of intelligence, and the incredible scale of time, a very, very clear picture starts to emerge. Let's just recap the journey here. We started with the fact that real scientific UFO evidence is basically non-existent. Then we saw that Earth isn't a very logical tourist spot. We realized any visitor would be a machine, not a creature. And finally, we saw how the vastness of time makes a rendezvous almost impossible anyway. So where does all this logic lead us? Well, the conclusion is pretty straightforward. We probably don't need to hold out hope for a friendly encounter. And the good news is, we also don't need to worry about an invasion. For all practical purposes, we are alone. And that leaves us with a final, and honestly, a much more profound question. If there's no one else out there to see the universe, if this little spark of consciousness on this one planet is the only one we'll ever get to know, what does that make our job as its caretakers? What's our ultimate responsibility in the cosmos?